Completion of man and universe. The original gods have plotted in the beginning to complete the whole world from the heaven to the earth. So is set up time of ordeal. It is the great wish of the original gods to complete the heavenly world and successively the earthly world and man. It is being carried out with all the possible measures to make it successful. Now the time has come to realize the original intention of the gods to finish man, the earthly world and the universe. To make real pleasures true to all the gods in the earthly world is plotted by the original gods in the first place. For the reconstruction and the reformation of the world, the good parts of the present civilization, culture and technology will be kept and brought into the new world of the reign of the gods, MLROKU. All the necessary gods appear in talented people for the task. It is a great transition for the new reign and the world. It is now clear why so a huge cleanup is required. All must go back to the purified slate, namely, the original state of the God-man. Under the order of the gods in the five-dimensional world, divine intent reaches to the heaven and even to man on the ground. It has been hoped and waited quite long for the world of the gods. That is ready to complete. Authorities, ideologies, principles, circumstances, faits accomplis, and stereotypes etc. created in time of the freewheeling once and gained by those of scums are all cleansed off, and it comes the world of the gods. Those such as principles, ideologies and religions are only the products of the unnecessary undulation of this world. Actually they do not need to be existed at all. They exist because they are just required temporarily then. No ideologies can last unless they go along with the gods' principles. Nobody can last long even if one commits the best try unless it is righteous and kosher to both the heaven and the earth. To leave every judgment to the emotion and to make one's will from calculation in the earthly world only creates the products that do not belong to the gods. It harms not only man oneself but also the others. And it has become like an ordinary way and man has gotten numb. In the end it has become a common sense and brought an extraordinary trend to the present world. Those are the days when man feels conflict even one is in a state of serene. That is why man who wants to go with a genuine heart has come to have doubts. In this world grown up the dust of the thoughts has been stratified in layers and the dust has fallen on man and piled up on one's surroundings. The dust in the air goes to wherever it likes and gathers on what it is attracted by. Especially man tends to call it. Some belong to the party or the group in which all have the same idea without an exception. They have a tendency to think about taking actions as a good thing and are content with that status without possessing their own will. Finally, there are some that lose their own will. In the past there have long existed the spiritual world upper than the earthly world, and in the spiritual world there have existed the world of wizards. Further there is a boundary and beyond there exists the spectrum world. Those worlds are filled with Buddhist evils and faineces created by the wicked thoughts. This creates huge problem with people who are hindered to go up to the heaven. In the spiritual world some gods have transformed into the malicious dragon gods who actually do not exist originally. And malicious kind of the gods do not exist in the first place. As time of the freewheeling passion, extravagant tentatively exist the gods have transformed into the various forms and passed the time. such as Shigi Shin as the false gods that are created by the evil thoughts of man are inevitably born under the circumstances in time of the freewheeling. The dragon gods popularly known move fast and are very strong. Because they impose majestic appearance and have a strength, they attract people who want to be like the dragon gods. They transform into the various kinds of fluid formation and can change it instantly. Because all the gods have that of the fluid spiritual body, people tend to have a misleading conviction. The gods are cheerful, friendly, innocent, harmonious and natural. People required for the restoration of this world are selected by the gods. They have the relations with the gods and have the missions. They must not be distorted. The task of the gods must be carried out by man that has a sound body and mind. It is the plan of the gods to make this world normal and return to the original state in the beginning. All the required people have come to this world. They are given the power to accomplish it by the gods. In the new world of the gods, the necessary numbers of people and the gods are chosen. The spiritual lineage for children and grandchildren are in order. That is why there would be no conflict and competition. A job for that man must be one's vocation, and it is hereditary. Required people are meant people who do the work for building the new world, and the numbers of them must not be in shortage. There is no same man. Man must not be in lacking in both one's spirit and capacity. Man who has grown up and aged becomes an elder who is possessed of a virtuous character and becomes the leader and supports the followers. Man is sent to this world by the decision done in the divine conference in the four-dimensional world, where man's fate for the birth is scrutinized and the protection is provided. Man oneself has to realize what to do and one's purpose in this world. After the birth, what to do in this world arises in one's mind at age of around 10, and one gets conscious of its purpose sooner or later. When man reaches to this age, a desire for learning for the world and an awareness of oneself gets strong. Until man is 5, one builds up one's body and reports to the heaven that one exists on the ground. After that, man enters one's life in the earthly world. Then as man of house and man of this world, man keeps making a living in the society. As to the basic education for man to become an adult, one starts learning from how the structure from the space to the earthly world is made. And man must know the meaning of existence for man in this world. Man needs to be aware of its importance of learning the necessary basic study. Man learns the basics up to the age of 10 in a manner of simple and innocent way. After that, let man study everything about a life in this earthly world, and when the age of 15 is reached, man goes enter the basic study to which one likes and is suited. Then one proceeds to specialized field, namely enter the university. During this period, man learns oneself how to build up and protect body and mind and mentality. The other things for man to know are led later. Agriculture, forestry, afforestation of mountain, flood control, construction industry and food and clothing are learned in the basic study. Boys and girls together learn the knowledge about the patterns of a life and how to make a living and basics in this world. After the all-basic study has been learned, each independently work on the job that one prefers and most suited to under the master or the mistress of that work. One must try to improve and cultivate one's skill at the same time and discipline both one's body and mind. This is a general path of man born in this earthly world. Man together with the gods trains oneself hard in the nature to grow the dignified mind and tries to acquire the power of the gods in the earthly world. Man grows up that way. Man accomplishes learnings but not performance, and man accomplishes performance, but not in the spiritual completion, make one's life in this earthly world incomplete. In order to make a new perfect world and prepare for it, man must remember the basic study that exists with the nature and look back to an original step for man. There comes time when the old values or the thoughts in the past cannot stand any longer. Without hurting one's special quality, man further enriches and protects oneself. It is very important for both man and the others. It is desired by the heaven, and also it is the joy of the heaven. The children of the gods all are abundant in experience and capacity. None of them has no capability. There is no man that cannot understand the truth of the gods. There is no man that does not come to notice and realize of it by means of the spiritual and the physical senses. There are no elders who have nothing to be respected, but whose many experiences and considerate prudence excel in judgment of matters and express all the features. The elders grow the deeper in their mind, become the more sublime their mentality is, and can tie with the heaven and the earth. The elders are the live gods that have happily accomplished in this world, having the high caliber and the dignity. They suit to the leaders of the various fields. They are matured and filled with the joy and the masters of life in this earthly world. Without reaching to this status, when one enforces authority under the pretense of the elders, one just looks like a comedian. All the dusts and the scums raised in this earthly world, such as to anger at anything that one takes as annoyances to him/her, and to grieve over everything that is wayward and unfriendly to him/her, and pains, envy and vexing, etc., are not deleted unless one oneself notices them and dissolves them, because they are created by one's own heart. Namely, the dusts and the scums can only be deleted in the place where they are born. Man as well as the gods have been creating and accumulating the huge dusts and the scums in this world. The fact is, it is a great sin. The minds and spirits used in the past are invisible but are still afloat there. When they solidify further, they become stronger, and together with the present vice spirits they cause a troublesome ground for both oneself and the others. When man is under the circumstances of the gods in the beginning, all is purified, and naturally man could connect with the upper worlds with one's spiritual tie, and can make a living simply and make it a beautiful one without being annoyed or attracted by the hordes of the vices nested at boundaries. But sometimes man gets dirtied and falls into the situation in absorbing the vulgarities inevitably against one's will. The God's spiritual world and this earthly world are always connected. It is the treasure of both worlds to have lots of karmas, because it turns out to be good once those karmas are overcome and solved. That will make the spirits and the thrones get strong and grow. Man circulates the spectrum, the God's spiritual and the present worlds respectively. It is called a revival when one circulates them all and is reborn again on the ground. And it is called a recycle in which one does not complete a circulation and returns to the ground in the middle of the circulation. In order for man to return to the four-dimensional world, one must cleanse off all the thoughts, the ideologies and the other scums of the earthly world in the spiritual world. Man must be totally naked and pure white to go back to the four-dimensional world, the God's spiritual world. Man will meet then a guide, the God, called angel. Now the time has come to man who must go back to the state of the gods as in the beginning. Man must realize it in the present life and try to bring oneself to accomplish it. The time requests man to do it. To always try to build a good atmosphere with one's own will and always try to get rid of the vice thoughts from one's mind are very important. Man who can make a performance in the God spiritual world realizes in this earthly world that, in the end of one's ascetic practices, one will be blessed with a sound mind and body. It can acquire one the spiritual power enable him/her to communicate freely with the upper world, and to make a living in this world with the best nature and quality of man. Man who is set to walk on the path of the God or goes enter the search for it oneself. The processes extensively varies for man to take. Generally, the larger the spirit man brought with one from the heaven, the bigger the task the gods assign. Circumstances also influence the task given to man to accomplish. From whatever the motivations are internally or externally, the destination at the end is the same. It is a place of practice for man to aim at going to the top, to stand on there, to look over and back everything. People face a transition when they come to a certain stage to change the course of direction. So much is the world disarrayed. That is why it requires the restoration for man to return to its original. First thing to do is to emancipate from the worldly attachments or reasons and find out a joy where man is placed. Then to emancipate from all the surroundings in the present world to transcend oneself. Visible things, people around, movable things, audible things and touchable things. Once man transcends all of them and connects to the end of the heaven, there exists no longer oneself. But one's feet touch firmly on the ground and consolidate back and belly. Man gets centered in the heart of Yamato. In it, together with the nature on the ground, man gets the posture to communicate with the heaven and the four-dimensional world. Whatever the circumstances man is put, such as under a huge crowd, or in the various reasons or the situations, man must achieve communications by means of consolidation of body and mind. Once man can conduct this pristinely at all times without being bothered by the worldly thoughts or the vulgar-minded ideas, man can become Herculean. Man must overcome all of them instantly and easily. Man must always be able to communicate with the four-dimensional world and keep that state of mind in daily life. It is required for man because man is the live God. If one needs to go in the mountains, oceans and rivers to achieve it, the accomplishment is still far away. However, it depends on man to take the best route suited to him/her, considering one's situations. Generally speaking, man must be conscious of the nature where one wishes to appreciate divine atmosphere and avoid to mistakenly love the vices and the vulgars in this world. It is understandable that man would not have too many choices to make a living in the earthly world and find oneself that one's power is insufficient. Thus it is important for man to train oneself under the circumstance one is momentarily put in. Man must not be negligent in nurturing one's body and mind every day. Because of the various worldly reasons, man tends to forget a high-spirited mind. Man must control freely the spiritual mind so that one can solve all the problems by oneself, with the knowledge bestowed by the gods, and make a living in this earthly world. To keep making a living and to try to make it perfect themselves solve karma. Man never be put under the circumstance where one cannot overcome the ordeals. Wherever man is put, it is on the ground. There is no place on the earth where the wills of the gods cannot reach. Man who is the God with the flesh body on the ground never be forgotten and abandoned by the heaven. It is required for man to feel and appreciate the stage of the gods. And the time has come for man to accomplish this easily. To go along with the waves of the universe and to see the growth of man of that degree never be seen in the past. Man will know the process to complete this earthly world. Going back to the original state of oneself and staying there. Always make man easier to communicate with the gods and understand where the will of the gods lay in this world. Everyone, the God-man, can do it. The God-man on the ground has the ability to know about the trend of the universe and the earth. Man can secede from the real world freely and do adequately settle with the matters both for the earthly things and the incidents of the gods. It is the proof of man in this world who can do it as a matter of course. Man must change one's mind beautifully and masterfully. The matters and the things that are born there must be judged if they are right or wrong. And if they were wrong, they must be solved quickly and smartly by the changes in one's mind. Even a clod of the earth or the stone or the vegetation are those of the creations the gods have done. They possess a hard-to-get feeling of the afterglow. Man who has reached to the master of an art, skill or mind has an atmosphere of the virtuoso implicitly upon one's surrounding. When man, originally the god, reaches to the highest stage of mind, one naturally comes to possess exquisite beautifulness that gives an elegant afterglow. Beautifulness in the afterglow is only appreciated in this earthly world. To feel and sense the atmosphere and the rhyme of the gods through the things and people can be only possible in this earthly world. These can be seen and felt on a work of art that has reached to its perfection. Because it is the beautifulness produced in the work of a deep soul, and if it is given a part of Creator's spirit, it expresses vividly its liveliness. Man not only makes things but builds oneself up to become a master. That suits to the wills and the thoughts of the gods, and man can respond both to the universe and to the gods. As the leader of this nature, man appreciates the joy and the responsibility. Man who has not experienced karmas does not have any values. There are the words which say technique enters the level of the god. But the art is not a special thing. Making ordinary daily life, cooking, raising the children, working in firms and mountains, growing crops. Construction, engineering, science, and associating with people daily, etc. are all the arts. Soon all the consensus of people in this world, direction of man's will, all the spiritual waves of the gods from the four-dimensional world, and the wills of the gods would clearly appear in this world of man. Without knowing the fact, man cannot get through the path on the ground. Man must not hesitate in trying to do a hard effort to accomplish one's completion, even if it is so special that it outdates the common sense of the past. Time requires man to do hard practices that are not as the same ones as done in 50 or 100 years of the past. Man oneself must notice and take actions to have a tie with the gods. Restoring one's will, trying to feel the gods, wishing to see the gods, man must enter the path toward them. Excelling all and staying directly under the consciousness of the living God. When the God descends and dwells in man, usually it comes from the own spiritual God, the spiritual lineage, the guardian deities or the other gods. Even though man has had the tie with the God, it does not mean one transforms at once into a consecrated figure like a conjurer. When man is ready in one's mind to receive the gods, they accompany him/her like one's companion for life. Man realizes it in the embodiment in one's own sense and power. Man does not need to pretend. Man oneself comes to sense it naturally. When man has surpassed all of the earthly things and returned to the original state of mind of the beginning, the God comes naturally for man, tying with one's restored mind and dwells in him/her. Man must analyze firstly oneself to find out one's own conscience and judge one's mind with the eyes of the third person, and restore the things of either good or bad. Try to correct bad things into good ones and rectify oneself back to one's own original state. These must be done daily. If man keeps one's will stay right, one can have the strong power to get them done, and one must not hesitate in doing so. Many sufferings, difficulties and vulgarnesses that have gained authorities in this world are only the tentative earthly products. And they have been collapsing gradually, and they are to be disposed as refuse at the time of the great transition. The gods are cheerful, vigorous and strong, and stay only in the truth. To have the God mind, man must not hesitate. The gods come unto him/her tying with one's God heart. Man's God spirit wakens. Mostly it comes from one's own God spirit or one's spiritual lineage. The canopy that divides the heaven and this world is now open. The gods of the heaven descend respectively on from the first emperor to the 25th 25 emperor. Also on many ordinary people descend the gods either. Communication between the four-dimensional world and this earthly world is freely done. The original government is then established. But gradually the earthly world has been separated from the four-dimensional world and the gods. Except for the significant calamities or the incidents, even the emperor could not communicate with the upper world. Communication between man and the gods has been nearly stopped. It is the world of the freewheeling, the tentatively established world, where the gods are hidden and man is guarded from behind. In this way the work of the gods in the heaven to this world has been changing. Because the work of the gods in the heaven has not regained its normal state, the earthly world has been influenced. So too in the four-dimensional world the work of the gods to guard man with the God spirit in the earthly world has been neglected. This is because the gods at front inevitably cannot give full play to their ability. Now all the upper worlds and also the nature of the celestial sphere have regained the original powers and stay together with man and surroundings. The four-dimensional world is restored. It has entered a new state. Now it is working on man and the earthly world. It is now required for people who have the lineage of the gods to return to their original state themselves and do make an effort in this world as man of God. In this earthly world the power of the gods is eagerly aspired. The gods are determined to restore the present world and return it to the reign of the gods. So if man can become just like the gods, it will show a truly harmonious, enjoyable and strong world. Once this is achieved, no longer man suffers from the agony born from notions of sins, various annoyances and pains, because the revived spirit is strong in leading man to do a transition. Man can make one's own spiritual work active and help overcome even the national crisis. The thrones of the gods of the origin have been restored. The four-dimensional world has been cleaned. The spiritual and the spectrum worlds respectively have been rearranged in order. Communication with the four-dimensional spiritual world has recovered and regained as it becomes free. This world has been filled with the scums and the dirts of both visible and invisible. This time the gods implement the restoration on the gods themselves, the present world and the spectrum world for man of the God who dwells in them. Otherwise the restoration is not perfected up to the whole universe. To train man into the perfect and make the world no complaint forever, and the gods come to the front to tell about everything is this time only. To be able to sense, see and acknowledge the gods is also this time only. The gods have used a lot of people to let man, who has forgotten the gods, know again about the gods and understand the plan of the gods. It is the time for the gods to fulfill their earnest wishes. Man must get on the progress of this world. Man must not stop even if man faces difficult situations, many hardships, obstacles of hills and mountains in one's life. When man has overcome and transcended them or is in the process of solving them, one gets stronger and nearer to the completion. It is so planned by the gods. Man who forgets the mind for the progress and just gets used to the things of the vulgars cannot acknowledge a new power and make use of it. That man is corrupted and depraved. So each man has to do one's best to pass the process of one's life. The new world will be built by the powers of those gathered. Whatever the directions, the patterns or the tendencies, all must be on the way to the progress. Once all are overcome and completed, the four-dimensional world is reflected to this earthly world. The three-dimensional world and the time of the gods will come. Then what has happened in the past is forgotten and it comes a joyful world. At last the heaven comes down on the earth. Up to now the most of the events, the happenings, the circumstances and the trends in the past are gone. Once there have happened the Great Meiji Restoration, and World War II, they are the great innovations ever happened which are unthinkable in the past. When to go cross a high ridge, man as well as the gods all take part in the task that is to clean the whole world. After the completion of the cleaning there will be no more confusion, no air pollution and no evil thoughts floating in this world. Family has no disorders in their spiritual lineage for parent and child, and man and wife, relationships any longer. Child's flesh is of mine and mine is of child's. One's feelings and arts unify, therefore, to think and to act match. A job is assigned to each in accordance with one's liking. The job assignment is hereditary. It does not change forever. All in all, for governing the world, nothing is in short for man to achieve one's best skills and make a living. There's no evil that is both visible and invisible. To make a living itself is the art. The completion of it makes the world with endless beauty and elegance. Most of the injuries and the sicknesses occur only in the process of man's growth. Man never dies out because of them.